Hello YouTube! Today we're talking about the next effect in this After Effects series. It is the Cinders background. We're going to create this cool title sequence with this background. Basically some flying sparks without any third-party plugins. In a world where you need overly dramatic and cinematic titles with a background, comes After Effects tip number 3. Flying sparks with the Cinders effect. Finally, we're in After Effects, and we'll see the composition that I had for this example. Super simple. We have our background and our text right here. So, first things first, let us click our new composition button. If you don't have the organization for your files, I highly recommend doing that, but that's besides the point. New composition. We'll call this tutorial comp, or maybe we'll call it fiery cinders floating comp titles. Doesn't matter what it's called. First things first, we'll hit Control Y on the keyboard. Make a new solid. Black is fine. We'll go to our effects and presets, and we'll go to animation presets, backgrounds, and it is Cinders. Drop that on, and most of the work is done already. That's the benefit of using these backgrounds. Way to save time. Smart. So, to make it look like our original composition, we'll first change the fractal type on both of these to not basic. It was, I'm sorry, keep that threads, but turn everything to linear. And what we see is, beforehand when it was on soft linear, if you scrub through it, it kind of has like this staticky grid sort of thing. It looks pretty, like it looks dynamic, but it also still has some sort of structure to that. We don't really want that. So we're going to turn this to linear. And then it's kind of doing its thing. Cool. Next, what we'll do is we'll go into the transform settings. We'll go to the offset turbulence. Alt click on the stopwatch, and you could animate this with some keyframes, but I prefer to do it this way because if I extend the duration of my composition, I can always rely on the expression animating it and not having to manually move keyframes if this needs to be like an hour-long background for some reason. So, to do that, we're going to get rid of what's already there. We're going to set a couple variables. We're going to hit X equals, and that will be the X position. So the first portion, then we'll hit Y equals, and that will be the Y portion. Close both of those off with a semicolon, enter, enter, just so we know where we are working. We'll hit left bracket X star, which is multiplication, time, comma, Y star times negative time. And the reason we're doing negative time is if in After Effects, the way the position on the X and Y axis goes is it's going left is negative and right is positive. So that kind of makes sense if you remember from the algebra days where you have the planar graph sort of thing. Left is negative, right is positive. And if I'm doing that backwards on the camera, it should make sense. However, for the y-axis, alarm, the up and down is a little bit counterintuitive. So up actually goes negative for some reason, and down is positive. So when we hit the right bracket to close that expression, and we hit enter, what we'll see is that the first fractal noise on this effect is going up and to the right, which is what I wanted. But if you wanted it to go down, you could just change the time to positive, and now guess what? It's going down. How cool is that? But I like it going up. So set that negative. Then we'll copy everything. We'll go to the first fractal noise that's on it. Then we will go back into transform, offset turbulence, alt click, paste that same thing, and maybe we could just change the speed of this by like time times 1.2. It's like a small difference, but Actually, that makes things go a lot faster. Oh, excuse me, that's why. It is referring to the original one, so we have it's set to look at fractal noise 2, and we wanted to look at fractal noise 1. So let's just change those, and now it's referring back to itself. It's going a little bit faster now. Maybe we'll just change that to like 0.5, make it a little bit slower. Too slow. Or we can just divide that whole thing by 2, and then divide the other one by 2, and that should slow things down just a little bit. Sweet. Now, we also notice that there is some sort of evolution happening, so if you hit U on the keyboard, you'll see that there are some keyframes. Let's get rid of those by clicking on the stopwatch. Not alt-clicking, just clicking to get rid of it. And we'll just go into the evolution, hit time times 100. That was my girlfriend sneezing. Bless you. You okay? Time times 100. Okay, so time times 100. And it has this sort of dynamic effect, and now guess what? We don't have to animate anything, so if we change the duration to, like, say, just duration of composition to 60 seconds now, instead of 30 seconds, we'll just extend the duration. We don't need to change anything, because it goes all the way to the end, and does the things. So, that's great. It's a lot of sparks, though, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn down the contrast just a little bit, maybe turn it up actually. And what that is doing is fractal noise is originally a black and white sort of look, but by bringing up the contrast, it will get rid of the in-between black and white, which is just neutral gray. So to give you an idea, if we turn off this tritone effect, everything is white, and then let's go to full so we can kind of see. So we have like more pure white in the center, and then some gray, and then some pure black. So fractal noise is working off of that, and we're just bringing up the contrast so there's less of the pure gray. So it's either just black or white, and there's less of it. Well, this is cool. Our background is done. There's not a whole lot we need to change here. You could, again, change the contrast a little bit more, so there's a little bit less sparks if you want, or more if you really want to just, like, make it super fiery and fire, brimstone sort of thing, but I'm not about that life. So, cool, that's done. Let's add some cinematic text. We're gonna make a big text box so that we have room to work with. We'll call this, I don't know, what's something fun, because unicorns and rainbows are like the anti-fiery brimstone things. So let's do that, unicorns and rainbows. Sick. We'll hit Control-Alt-Home to center that anchor point, then Control-Home to bring that into the center of our composition. We'll uncollapse that. We'll go into Animate. We'll add a couple of things. First, enable per character 3D. We'll add a rotation. Then, under that, we will add a opacity. Then, we will add a true blur. And then we will add a tracking. So, we're adding 4 things. Rotation. First things first, the Y rotation is going to turn the characters sort of on its Y axis, so like around like this. That's Y. Let's say like -45, sure. -60. -90. We want it like dramatic. We will change the tracking to go out. So what's happening is the tracking is like the width between, it's like the space between the space on the letters. So when you don't have tracking, set that to 0, it's like, oh, that also doesn't help. That's so space between the space. Tracking is space between the individual letters, and then it'll also help these spaces a little bit. But yeah, tracking, bring that up. Sure, right there. -90. For the rotation, once again, we'll change the blur amount so it is blurry. which is pretty self-explanatory. Let's change the tracking type to after, so it's going to track everything after all the animation is done. We'll go to the range selector, which is the animating tool master that's going to change all of this back to its original state. We'll hit page down once to bring that in really quickly. That's 10 frames forward. I'm sorry, that's to a shift page down. And we'll turn that all the way up. And guess what? It sort of animates on. It kind of has a leftward bias. So let's go into the individual more options, and we'll set that to line, and we'll, my alarm again. I need to take out the trash. So we'll set the advanced animator to line as well, and it should sort of center everything a little bit. Maybe we'll bring the tracking out a little bit more. Cool. It's a little fast, so maybe we'll just set that to like 15 seconds. Boom. Right there. That's cool. Alright. And then we'll go to the 3-second mark. So page down with shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we will hit U and then shift P to open up our position. We'll set that a keyframe there, and we will go to the beginning and set another keyframe, and then we'll go to the very end keyframe and we'll hit Alt left bracket to trim that, and we'll bring it way towards us in the negative space. And then we will go to the initial keyframe. We'll hit Control Shift F9, and then we'll hit Control Shift K to open up the keyframe velocity. And what we just did is, if you go into the graph settings, you'll see that it's going to start really slow at the 0 mark, and then it's going to slowly ramp up, and get faster, and then stop. So that's position. So if we look at the animation, scrub through with this very pixelated look, because my computer can't do things. Alright. Oh, and there's one thing I forgot to mention. Let's hit UU on the keyboard to open up every single thing that we have changed. We'll uncollapse the animator, and we'll change that opacity to 0. And close the graph editor, and what do we have here? Unicorns and rainbows, and it comes towards us and disappears. And then what we can do is we can duplicate that text layer, and then we can hit left bracket on the keyboard to move it over, and then we'll type something else like lollipops and I don't know what else is like fun and exciting. Lollipops and everything. Unicorns, rainbows, and lollipops and everything, and fire and brimstone. You get the idea. So we have this cool fiery background, we have this cool cinematic text. What did we learn today? We learned how to use this background effect by changing just the basic effects of the fractal noise, so we didn't have to do anything. That's also influenced by the tritone and the glow, so it has more dramatic looks. Then what we learned is we went into these text layers and played with the animating tool so that you can do cool animating things, change a bunch of things to make the text look different, to start the animation, and then just keyframe one thing. Super easy, super convenient. I hope this was helpful. Backgrounds are hard because they're backgrounds, so we're learning a lot in these tutorials. But I hope it's useful. If it is, hit that like button below or leave a comment if you have questions or things. And until next time, I will talk to you later. My name is Jagsywagsy. Bye-bye!